Maya took over our home within months of moving in, and I had to fight back. I thought letting my mother-in-law move in would bring more support, especially since we'd just married and settled into our new 4-bedroom home. We agreed she'd have her own space, 2 rooms downstairs and a decent-sized patio. I expected we'd still have our upstairs level to ourselves. But it quickly shifted. Instead, she essentially took over nearly every corner of our home. The kitchen became hers, stacked with her dishes, containers, and knickknacks everywhere. Even my husband's office filled up with her things, despite her having her own rooms and patio. What was supposed to be a thoughtful gesture to help her out started to feel like she was erasing our space, our routines, and our plans. I found myself tiptoeing around my own home. It didn't feel like ours anymore. We thought we'd created a comfortable setup, but she scarcely used even her designated patio, opting instead for shared spaces regularly. Now she's insisting her longtime boyfriend move in too. That added boundary line? Gone. Our privacy is eroding. And family? It's becoming harder to see a future in this. We were trying to start our own life, but now I'm worried we'll never get a family of our own because she's taken over too much turf, too soon. Things kept escalating. One day, as I was cooking in the kitchen, I sat in utter disbelief at how cluttered it had become. Every drawer, cabinet, and counter was now filled with her mismatched dishes, containers, and decorative items, stuff she never even used. It was my kitchen, the space where I once felt at ease, now transformed into her personal playground. Our agreement was supposed to give her 2 bedrooms downstairs and exclusive use of the patio. Instead, she moved into the kitchen and even started using our personal balcony, not the spacious patio she'd been allocated. Knowing she had more space, this felt deliberate, intrusive, and disrespectful. It got worse when she asked if her long-term boyfriend could move in with us too. I froze. This wasn't a guest, it was an invasion. With privacy evaporating and boundaries pushed aside, I began questioning if we'd ever really have a home of our own, or even be able to start a family. As we planned, I tried talking to my husband. At first, he brushed it off as his mom just being overly enthusiastic. But after Reddit users weighed in, saying things like, "Unless she gets out soon, this is only going to spiral downhill," he finally realized this wasn't harmless help. It was control. I sat him down and explained how lonely I felt in our own house. I told him that if things didn't change, I'd rather leave than live here in my head. That conversation ended with an ultimatum. Either she respects our space, or she doesn't stay. The stress has been heartbreaking. I love my husband, but this situation isn't just hurting me, it's damaging our relationship. I know other Reddit users have encouraged me to stand firm, urging me to make protective choices even if it meant stepping away temporarily for clarity and peace of mind. My hope now is that setting boundaries and maybe even showing her the door will restore the home we dreamed of together, or at the very least, open our eyes to whether this marriage can move forward with such disrespect. Had hoped the conversation with my husband would bring clarity, but instead, it felt like we were speaking different languages. He acknowledged the issues, but seemed unwilling to take decisive action. His hesitance left me feeling more isolated and unheard than ever. The situation at home grew increasingly unbearable. My mother-in-law's belongings continued to encroach upon every available space. The kitchen, once a sanctuary for me, had become a battleground of mismatched dishes and clutter. Her presence in our shared spaces felt like a constant reminder that our home was no longer our own. The emotional toll was profound. I found myself withdrawing, spending more time outside the house, seeking solace in places where I could feel a semblance of peace. The joy we once shared in our home was replaced with tension and uncertainty. I began to question the future of our relationship. Was this the life I had envisioned? A life where my boundaries were disregarded and my needs took a backseat? The fear of losing my sense of self weighed heavily on me. In discussions with friends and family, I received mixed advice. Some urged me to be patient, to give my husband time to address the situation. Others suggested more drastic measures, including seeking professional help or even considering a temporary separation to gain perspective. The uncertainty was paralyzing. I longed for a resolution, for a return to the harmony we once had. But with each passing day, the path forward seemed less clear. The tension in our home escalated to a breaking point when my mother-in-law began making unsolicited decisions about our personal space. One evening, I returned home to find her rearranging our living room furniture without prior discussion. She had moved our couch and replaced our decor with items she had brought from her own home, completely disregarding our preferences. When I confronted her about this intrusion, she responded with a dismissive attitude, stating, "It's just a little change. You'll get used to it." Her lack of respect for our boundaries left me feeling powerless and disrespected in my own home. The situation worsened when she started making derogatory comments about my cooking and cleaning habits. She would criticize the meals I prepared, often suggesting that her way was superior, and would take over household chores without asking, leaving me feeling undermined and unappreciated. These constant oversteps began to take a toll on my mental health. I found myself retreating into isolation, avoiding interactions with her and even my husband, who seemed oblivious to the growing tension. I felt trapped in a situation where my voice was unheard and my needs were ignored. In a desperate attempt to reclaim some semblance of control, I began documenting her behavior, noting each incident where she crossed a boundary or made me feel uncomfortable. I shared these notes with my husband, hoping it would open his eyes to the extent of the problem. To my relief, he finally acknowledged the severity of the situation. Together, we had a candid conversation with my mother-in-law, setting clear boundaries and expressing the need for her to respect our space and decisions. While the conversation was challenging, it marked the first step toward restoring peace in our home.